Okay, and welcome back. Um, just walking through the living room, and they were talking about Hurricane Florence on the local news. So yeah, it's still something kind of big. What else? What else? What else? Trump administration announced Monday that it's closing the the Palestine Liberation Organization's mission in Washington. At the same time, International Criminal Court threatened with U.S. sanctions for going after Israel for its crimes. So clearly, they're trying to back Israel like crazy. It's like, no, you need to do what's right, not bend down Israel, kiss your ass, and suck a turd out. Whatever. Whatever. It's not worth it. We know they're idiots. What else is going on? Shotgun toting mansions shoots anti-Obamacare lawsuit in new ad. Just go to Medicare for all. It makes more sense. What else? Blah, blah, blah. And page 3 of Google. For Republicans to whine about Fox News getting not enough attention, it sure seems to be on Google all the freaking where. So they're doing the whole U.S. news report, U.S. News and World Report's best universities. Turns out 2 of them were from Illinois, were among the 10 best in the U.S. Fox News, Fox News, Fox News, Fox News. Really, and it's somehow not listed at the top of your little lists. I find it everywhere when I go online. I don't know what's wrong with you. Let's see. As far as sports go, they're still doing the playoff hunt in baseball, which they've got most of that settled. My Panthers won their first game of the NFL season, and the Hokies are now 2-0 as far as the college season. So everything's looking pretty good. Of course, I expect the Hokies to be undefeated until they play Notre Dame. That's going to be a challenging one. Because we still have Notre Dame on the schedule and then Miami of Florida. That'll be the two toughest games we have left. What else is going on in the world of science? Let's see what they've figured out. Celebrating female contributions to science. Hey, it's always good. How obesity may harm memory and learning. In the brains of obese mice, rogue immune cells chomp nerve cell connections that are important for learning and memory, scientists report. Huh. It's like I say, you shouldn't fat shame, but you shouldn't celebrate people being overweight. Let's see. Because obesity does have severe side effects, believe me, as someone who suffered a heart attack from it. You get side effects. So, not much in the way of science. A in history. See what they have. I guess we'll go here because they don't have the normal history channel today in history. Let's see, 253 third day of the year, 112 days left. On this day in 1963, 20 black students entered Alabama public schools following a standoff between federal authorities and Governor George C. Wallace. In 1813, an American naval force commanded by Oliver H. Perry defeated the British at the Battle of Lake Erie during the War of 1812. In 1846, Elias Howe received a patent for his sewing machine. In 1919, New York City welcomed home General John J. Blackjack Pershing and 25,000 soldiers who had served in the 1st Division during World War I. In 1935, Senator Huey P. Long died in Baton Rouge 2 days after being shot in the Louisiana state capitol by Dr. Carl Weiss. Allegedly by Dr. Carl Weiss. In 1939, Canada declared war on Germany. So think about that. Canada in 39 declares war on Germany before the U.S. does for World War II. The U.S. doesn't enter the war until we're attacked at Pearl Harbor in December of 1941. In 1960, Hurricane Donna, a dangerous Category 4 storm eventually blamed for 364 deaths, struck the Florida Keys. In 1962, the U.S. Supreme Court ordered the University of Mississippi to admit James Meredith, a black student. In 1987, Pope John Paul II arrived in Miami, where he was welcomed by President Ronald Reagan and First Lady Nancy Reagan as he began a 10-day tour of the United States. In 1991, the Senate Judiciary Committee opened the hearings in the nomination of Clarence Thomas to the Supreme Court. In 1993, The X-Files premiered on Fox. How the potential. I'm looking what else is going on this day in history. Seeing if anything else is really that significant. And nope. All right. So we have that. I do want to speak about the hatred in this country. You have so many people willing to burn their Nikes because they believe the orange skinned moron in the White House and what that they didn't want to stand for the flag because they don't like the national anthem. No, it's because of the constant epidemic of police violence and injustice. Look at it. It's common sense. Nike still has a profit since Kaepernick took over at 31%. But, yeah. This is why so many people, it's not the sole reason. It's been going on for a while. that there's a falling in education, which is why I'm like, educate thyself, read, study, learn. But it's one of the things that we have we are seen around the world as one of the dumbest groups of people there are. It's often seen in a number of countries, stupid Americans. And it's because many of you are uneducated. Just take things for granted without looking them up, doing your research. Don't just pay attention to the orange baboon in the White House. You know, he doesn't necessarily tell you the truth, the facts. The fact is, we have a shameful history of systemic racism. Whether you want to accept that or not, it's factual. It doesn't mean everything's true, but it doesn't mean you should not pay attention to what's happened. There's a lot more in depth to history and to what's happened in the world than what you think. But yeah, there have been common incidents where two people with the same credentials on their applications apply for a job, but because one has a white sounding name and the other is a black sounding name, it's a differential that they'll often pick the white sounding name. The fact that most of our crimes are committed by whites and they are usually at fault, but we have a great majority of African American and Hispanics. Well, Latinos, I guess. Chicanos are more for Mexican American. But a majority of them in jail, even though the majority of the crimes are committed by white people. It's shameful. The fact that we automatically assume that because you're of a darker skin tone or from another culture, you're more dangerous. It's not factually true. As a matter of fact, you know, the difference is ridiculous. We have a history of redlining, why is there a history of separating our cultures, our peoples? Let's divide them by race, by nationality, by religion, by this, by that. You know, we want to factionalize, to categorize everything. But sometimes it would help if there was an inner blending, if we truly were a melting pot. An effort to understand each other. But instead, there's this push of hatred that's always existed. And it's usually from stupidity or uneducated people. Honestly, I just feel there's a lot of hatred that's not warranted against certain groups of people. And the fact that we have groups like that in today's America, it should be shameful, but you know what? It's not surprising given the history. We always have those who lean towards the stupid. Honestly. Let's see. What else do I want to talk about today? There was another topic. Oh, yeah. Not only is tomorrow September the 11th, but I've got to go back out for another MRI. That'll be fun. Yay. Anyway, trying to think of what other topics we need to um, discuss today, if any. And oh yeah, it's a great topic. I've often felt a certain way about, but for some reason we've always kept it one way, and it seems to be an attempt to just divide us, Republican versus Democrat. But honestly, we're the largest democratic republic in the world. We should have more parties. There needs to be third and fourth, fifth and sixth valid parties. There's no other country as large as we are. Yet there's all these smaller nations with six, seven, eight political parties. And it's shameful that in a nation of 230 million people, we only have two political parties. And the rich has bought both out. We need reform in the worst way. We need a progressive party because even in the Democratic Party, when they're trying to push progressive reform through, it's going through so slow and so many people are against it. We just need to force a progressive party and other parties, the Green, the Libertarian, give them the equivalency you've given the Republican and Democrat. And number two, we need a a reformation in our election system. And what I mean, form your districts into, as close as you can, squares. Not all state borders will allow for perfect squares, I realize that. But the closer you can come to a square to give more of your state perfect squares in it for each district, makes more sense. They need to recount the number of people per representative. I realize this would give California an inordinate and a crazy number of people because it's just the most populous state. But they really need to recount the number of people per representative and add reps to the House of Representatives. Let's see. What else is there? Right now, those are two big things I can think of off the top of my head that we need to have done. Oh, yeah, Medicare for all. It just makes sense. Take a little bit from your taxes and make the rich pay. They don't need to have these huge tax cuts. Trickle down has only worked in a vacuum where they go, that idea works. When you put in other factors, though, it doesn't work at all. That's why it's been a failure. Stop trying to follow, uh, this failed idea of trickle down economics. It does not work. But I guess that's really all I have for today. Just kind of a discussion of the systemic racism and economic policies we kind of have, voting policies. Kind of wanted to discuss them, but I do love y'all. I do appreciate you, even if it feels like you aren't appreciated. You aren't loved. You are. There are people that care for you. Educate thyself. Read, study, learn. And I will talk to you all tomorrow. Later.